Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode of exactly how do we do this with your boy LGM. As you can see, the microphone that I am currently using is not connected. It's not a wireless mic. It's called an XLR. We're just gonna skip past that. Anyway, so I'm trying to start offering my services to other people for production, mixing, and mastering. And the problem is, it's the age-old problem for the 20-something-year-olds. I need experience to get the job. I need the job to get experience. I went over to Cambridge MT, or Cambridge Music Technology. It's a website, and they have some free songs that you can download. So I'm going to show you how you can go from making songs that sound like this having it sound like right after the intro. We'll get started. So we have now hopped into the DAW, and we're going to go ahead and get started with this. I'm going to start by explaining my process. I got all these tracks right here. The first thing I did was organize the lead vocals at the very top. That's going to be the thing that you're supposed to be hearing above all else. And then I have the other vocals are in like a lighter yellow. I got some synths. I got one piano track, which he used beautifully. I loved bringing that out. Some acoustic guitars, the electric guitars, plenty of that. And then he did give all the individual drum sounds as well as like the individual samples, but I went ahead and just used them together because I knew that they were different. I have all that going to different buses. So I have a preset that I pull up every time I go to mix a song, and at this point every time I go to produce a song. And as you can see on this bottom, I have all my vocals. So when I pull up my vocal window, I'll have my main vocals or main vox, all of my harmony vocals. If I have any ooze or special effects, ad libs, anything like that, that's normally the window they end up being bussed to. And then I have a basic vocal effect slider just so I can affect all that. And then you move one over, and these are all the vocal effects that I use on almost every single song with almost every single vocal track. Which is a short reverb, long reverb, or large reverb, short delay, large delay, an octave up and an octave down. From there, you go to my mix board, which will have all the vocals, no matter which ones they are. The acoustic guitars, the electric guitars, any pianos, pads, synths, bass and subs, drums, percussion, which I always have separate, and then I have a parallel compression for the master bus that is side chained to the main vocal, which just means when all my vocals are moving right here, that's highlighted for you. When that is going, I don't want my instruments to be crowding or actually covering up the vocal. This is the main part of the song that you're always supposed to be able to hear, understand, and identify with. When you use parallel compression like this, it can help level out everything, but it can also very quickly become something that covers up the song. So when you use a compressor that's side chained to your vocal, every time your vocals are singing, this little artistic piece, this little musical element that you have just quietly sitting here, quiets down a little bit more, and then when it stops, you get to hear the music, and so it breathes with the song naturally, and I barely have to put any work into it because it's a preset. So before I even show you like how I mix, that's one of the things that have really helped me is identifying the order I like to do it, color coordinating it so I don't get lost in somebody else's song, and I have a preset that I always stick to that can help me. Because I've mixed songs for 2 or 3 years now, my own music, and I know the way that I normally do it. And then if I start to see a problem, I'll make a new preset. I'll figure out how I need to be improving that. So let's get started with the vocal tracks because that is the main part of the song. He's got a few going on here. The way he was using it was mostly, as far as I could tell, more like this first one is more like verses, the second one is more like the choruses, and I went ahead and I had to do a lot of work to them. I started with some Melodyne and Pro Q3, just taking out, actually adding a little bit of 2K boost, because on my main vocal bus right here, I added a lot of compression on my main vocals. On my all vocals bus, I added compression as well. I also added, this is where most of my EQ came from, is because I knew if this dude recorded the lead vocals the same, whatever I did to one track, I would just have to do to another. Why not save some CPU and go ahead and do this? I had to add a ton of 5,000 hertz range. It helped it cut through the mix. Without it, it doesn't sound crappy, but I've learned that the 3 to 5K range is actually where a lot of pop vocals end up having a big boost. It helps it sit in the mix better and cut through the mix, because that's a range where most of the instruments just aren't going, and that's a place where the vocal doesn't sound like garbage. So without it, I'm just gonna start with that main vocal. Angel in disguise is what you are to me. Doesn't sound bad, but with it, it sounds a little bit clearer. It's not very even right here because this is not on. Once you start to even that out, this is still a fairly refined range, but this is a spot where it can just help the vocal to. So went ahead and fine-tuned that. I wanted to leave it pretty natural. At the same time, he did add this harmony, which is just an octave down. I could tell he had everything pitch corrected, but I wanted to just bring it in a little bit closer. Your harmonies should truly be harmonies. They should be something that allows your main vocal to still be there, be present. It's just one other thing. And I'm going to go ahead and start taking off all my buses. An angel in disguise is what you are to me. That doesn't sound bad, but together. An angel in disguise is what you are to me. It's kind of lacking, so I went ahead and brought that up. Added that pitch correction, so it has some fatness to it. I know that that's my harmony side. An angel in disguise is what you are to me. As you can tell, when I'm putting all my buses back in, as I've explained, I have some short reverb. I normally do this in order, you can see it. Short reverb, long reverb, short delay, long delay. For both of these, the main vocals and harmonies. The thing that starts to differ is on the main vocal, I'll use an octave down and an octave up, even if they include it. And then on the main vocal, I have a chorus effect on a separate bus, and then on the harmony channel, I also have a chorus effect, but it's on its own bus as well, just to not muddy that up. You can see right here, he starts the first chorus, and he has some backing vocals. Went ahead and panned those a little. Which I EQ'd a lot of. They don't sound bad, but with that lead vocal, I hated it at first. Lo and behold, once I did it, I absolutely loved his decision to have that in there to begin with. So, without any effects right now, this is the first chorus. I don't know. Throw all these back on. I don't know. And you can definitely hear that chorus effect on the lead vocal. I was feeling like the whole thing was lacking, so that's why I happily put that in. The one other thing he started to do was on the second chorus, he added these, which I panned more aggressively. I didn't have to tune them very much. As you can tell, I did add a lot of reverb and echo directly to it. Just use the stock reverb. It works really well with Logic, and then I used an 1/8 dotted, running pretty wet. It is, I mean, it's loud, it's very obvious. You can start to see that this is sounding like waves of beautiful vocals. I don't know why. So I was really enjoying that. The one other thing he added, kind of weird at first. I ended up ducking it down to begin with because it was coming in a little hot, but I ended up keeping it as well. It sounds good. And then I went ahead and boosted the 3.5 kilohertz range, and then just put a high shelf on it, which is running over 6 dB. I just wanted that to really sing through these. So altogether, a lot of width going from these vocals. You got that main backing vocal to be quiet but help glue it all together with that. Absolutely gorgeous by the end of that. I was really impressed. Then we started with some synths. For the synth bus, just have some Saturn, and I have Saturn on most of these. That's just to have it. It's only running 10 to 20%, super subtle saturation, nothing over the top. The song like leads with, which is weird. The next one he added with this synth, I ended up using some EQ just to cut out the low end, added a little amount of drive with it, and then compressed it like crazy because it was this really ticky sounding sample or sound. It had way too much low end energy, and I wanted to have you actually hear it instead of just kind of say, so that's why I had such a low end cut on it. And that allowed movement that you could hear going back and forth while also staying controlled. The only other thing he added was at the end right here, he had some more synths. Got that low real low end, sounding good though. And then we go to the piano. What I ended up doing, since this was not 100% a main element, was I just went with a stock EQ, or stock compressor, compressing it 3 to 5 dB, just keeping it simple, keeping it still present. And then I used Pancake at about 60%. It's a free plugin I use all the time. And now we're going to be getting into the acoustic guitars. One of the cool things he did with that is he has some strumming that's going on here. I added this free plugin called Bittersweet. Not exactly sure how it works. If you want it more bitter, if you want to hear more of the ticks and if you want to hear the ticks and some of the strumming noises that come when you are playing a guitar, hit it bitter. If you want it to be more smooth, depending on your speed and how sweet you're turning it, hit it sweet. So I used about 50% on the sweet. Added a little bit of channel EQ just to cut out that low end. It had a little bit too much energy going there. And then I just put a little bit of a boost, about 2 dB of 2600 hertz, and it's the only other thing he added here was some picking. I went ahead and just panned those to create some more, I don't know, liveliness. I just wanted it, they're doing different things. Once we start heading over to the electrics, you will see the first electric is the main electric. He has it on the intro and the choruses. And then you start to get into these electric guitars with a bunch of distortion. And you need to pan it out, like you need to have some differences with it. So I went ahead and did that. Then we got these other electrics, which are much more for the dynamics. And I panned those about the same, added some compression because I didn't want quite as much dynamics. And then I even added pancake at about 50% because if they're relatively clean but low-end guitars, I thought it'd be cool to kind of have a little bit of wave of them going in the different ways like that. So when I use pancake on 2 tracks, if one's going left, the other's going right, and I just have them go back and forth, that would be the one thing I'd suggest. If you get pancake, don't throw the exact same thing, otherwise your whole song will start to be going left and right at the exact same time, and that's annoying. From there, I got into this third round of electric guitars, which he had, it's 3 and DI, which he does that for a lot of them. And I left those just in the middle because they had enough difference, like I liked them. And what I actually did with it was on that electric guitar 3 itself, I added a little bit of echo and reverb, just with that 1/8 dotted, and you can see I used it pretty sparingly, only at about 15%. I added some pancake at about 52%, going the opposite direction. On this set of electric guitars right here, I added a little bit of echo at a 1/8 dotted and 15%. So it's not super prevalent, but it's definitely there. I turned down the output a little bit and added a decent amount of reverb in relation to the dry source, but it was a pretty quick reverb. On the second one, which is the direct in, I have pancake going 100%. I have a 1/8 dotted going much harder, and since this was a clean source, I did go ahead and cut out some of the low end on that and just let it play around. So when you're hearing this, I love the way that sounds. And now you have some movement with it with that second source, which is why I just kept them centered. The fourth guitar, same with guitar 4 and the DI, just added pancake. It was a counter melody, didn't really feel the need to do a bunch to it because it was fine as it was. Electric guitar 5. And as you can hear there, I added bit crusher to this. This was the original sound without the bit crusher or pancake. As you can tell, that's really quiet. And when I added the bit crusher, I really liked that. This is exactly how I did it if you want to copy the results. And then pancake again, just to add a little bit of difference. And now we're gonna get into the bass. The bass and the drums are what I feel like made this song. He had 3 tracks to begin with, and I'm gonna go over here and make sure that I've turned off this right here. This bass bus is what absolutely made the song. So to begin with, you head on over to this bass guitar. I just added some compression. On that bass guitar, it's cutting a decent amount, up to 9 dB, but most of the time it was 3 to 5, or 10 dB. So it was going pretty fast. He had a lot of dynamics and I wanted to tame that. After I tamed that one, I went over here to the one with overdrive. And when I go to the one with the overdrive, you can hear I just wanted to cut a little bit of the low end on that. It had a little bit of the high end on here, and on this one I boosted the snot out of it. I really liked the fuzz. I just felt like it was too quiet and didn't want to add more gain to it, but I cut the low end out of this one too. I just felt like this main one with the DI should be used for that really solid low end. The other two add a little bit of fuzz and overdrive. Literally, created a pretty warm sound. And that sounds good. So here's the magic. I added another set of Saturn. The first set of Saturn, I did warm tape, which is a little bit dirtier at 20%. And then here I added about 200 hertz to 4800. I added warm tape at 20%, and that makes a huge difference. This makes a huge difference when you add it. So as you could see, I had to use it sparingly because I really didn't want to muddy that up and take away from that low end energy. That's the cool thing about using Saturn. You could use a separate bus for this. If you just have a free saturation plugin, or it doesn't allow for you to set parameters with it, you could always add a bass bus like I'm doing, and then you could add a separate one for any saturation that you would want to do, and then just EQ it out appropriately. It's more work for you, but if you're working on really limited gear and you want to figure out a way to do it, that's an easy way. So, like I was saying, that really not saved, but it set up that bass guitar to just make you want to like grimace with like glee. It sounds good. And here I'm running an Opto with a 4.83 to 1, pretty fast attack, pretty fast release. Just wanting to tame a little bit more of those, just wanting to tame it a little bit more. And then here I was running a way lower ratio, just a clean compressor, slow attack, slow release. I just wanted it to be more even. Here, I mean, I've been trying to get all those dynamics, all the, I can't say it. I don't know why I keep forgetting. There's a word for the beginning. I don't know. If you guys know what I'm talking about, please put it in the comments. But there's a part where the initial hit of a drum is the biggest indication or example for it. When you first hear the drum, it'll be the loudest then, but then there's a part at the end that fades out, and some people like to allow that initial hit to come through, some people do not, and that's why you would use it differently. So on this compressor, I didn't care if I let those initial hits of the notes ring through or not, because I've had 2 other compressors working on this bass guitar to tame those. So here I was just trying to even out the sound a little bit more. So it sounds kind of muddy by itself, but I mean, I really love it. From here, we're gonna go over to the drum. So when you go over to the drum bus, that's where I'm gonna start. I had Saturn running really subtly. I'm just gonna solo and say this was on this first kick, I wanted to add an EQ. I wanted to cut out most of the high end on it because he had those running. He has two this guy has 2 kicks, and both of them were running really hot on the high end, and I didn't really want them to. It's transients. The word I'm thinking of is transients. So this was taming the transients of this. Pretty fast attack, pretty fast release, 4-to-1 ratio on just the clean. I just wanted something. And then on this other one, I left it as it was. He also has like a little kick sample on this weird part. He had a hi-hat sample. I bit crushed it, so it actually left a lot of the mid to low end in it, and I really liked it. So altogether, so just this hi-hat sounded like. I never did anything crazy. The biggest thing I did here was pan the toms. Just like when you're playing your toms on a real drum set, you're going left to right. I went ahead and did that. I hard panned the overheads and I added some Pro Q3, just boosting the high end at around 21.5 kilohertz or 2,154 hertz. So I did it around that, nothing extreme. And then I just kind of use those as needed. I do have the right one a little bit louder because it was farther away from the snare and I was hearing too much of a difference, so I wanted to even those out, and then I just dragged those down. So most of what you're hearing is not from the overheads. I'll show you that. So without the overheads, and then with them. Just not as lively. So then you add that compressor. And here you can see it's greatly affected by that bass drum. I was running the bass drum super hot because now with the two sources, you got a low end rumble source, pretty heavily compressed. Actually, no, you got a low end source from that bass drum that is compressed. The transients are getting squashed. And then on the second one, you're getting a lot of high end, and that's not bad, but it was something that I wanted to kind of use sparingly. So I tamed that by just using this compressor on the whole bus. And then on this one, you got to pull down the side chain, but it's not a side chain. And I just EQ'd it so it's not getting nearly as much of the low end. And you can see that, but you can hear like so much greater body and life from the snare because of this. You can hear a thwack with that, like it's schwacked, like something good. I love it. I've now gone through in pretty great detail exactly everything that I went through, exactly how I was EQing it. I used a little bit of automation on those. Most of my automation, because of this, I'm able to just use on my mix bus itself, or my mix board itself. So I turned down all the vocals on verse 1. I turned down the percussion a little at the beginning. Little bit of harmonies I had to turn down at certain parts. For this effect, I did turn it down. It's a cool one, but it does kind of sound weird. And I like it. Just wanted to make it flow with the song a little bit better. So yeah, that's how I mixed it. And that's without any mastering. So it sounded like this. And what I used to kind of help figure out where I should and shouldn't be going is this last chorus. Has everything in there, has a slower part, but it also gets loud again. So I use this for my mastering. This is mixed, not mastered. And I said, that sounds good. So then I used this. It was Our Last Night. They have a You Broke Me First cover. As you can see, at least on the YouTube cover that they did, it's squashed like crazy. So I took that, I listened to how they did it, and then I went ahead and tried to master using similar sounding techniques. I took out all of these frequencies that were sounding pretty bad, and I did boost it at around 1294.5. Only boosted it about a dB, but in mastering, that's a ton. And right here, this is all done dynamically, so it just leaves it to where if it's too loud, it's just cutting it. Obviously, things like this one and this one would be much more aggressive, but I just did it as needed. From there, I added this EQ, which just was on the sides. We've panned 2 different tracks left and right. Here on the high end, it's just boosting those individual sounds, so anything in the middle is not going to be coming through as this high end is not going to be coming through the middle nearly as prevalently because this is only on the sides or the side frequencies. I also lowered around 100 hertz just to help the sides. It just makes it a little bit more wide, girthier, if you will, or if you won't, you don't have to say that. From here, I went ahead and added some multi-band compression. For the most part, in all of them, it's all done pretty subtly. It's barely dipping into that. It's barely dipping into that. Actually, this is the most aggressive at around 1600 hertz. None of it really boosted as much as just adding that little bit of compression there in those specific spots just helped to level it out, keep it smooth, keep it together. You don't always need to add a de-esser. I did on this one. Maybe that means my mix sucked, but I just thought it would help to bring it a little bit more tamed. Like I had said, that high end from that bass drum, which you could see right there popping up, it was cutting through really aggressively, and I used it sparingly, but even then I did that to help tune any residual vocals, any residual electric guitar or percussion, and even that mid-high to high end from the bass guitar. Some of it might kind of poke through occasionally, so I did that. I added some more compression right here, and I did EQ it. I didn't want it. I did a fast attack and release. I didn't want anything from the low end to be taken away in this case. I just wanted to get any sort of transients that were really poking through at inappropriate times. So that's what this one was for. This one, on the other hand, I didn't have an EQ, so I just wanted to say squash it all. It's only doing a couple dB. So at any time, it's never doing more than 2.5 dB, so that's really not awful. Just helped glue it together a little bit more. I did that before the limiter, just because I didn't want, I just didn't want to push the limiter as much. There's been a thing that's been said in other YouTube videos from people that I've watched that have said multiple compressors can help to leave stuff more musical. I don't know about the science behind it, but I've tried it and I kind of feel the same way. When you use compressors sparingly, even if it's multiple of them and on a master bus, can make a big difference. And definitely with analog gear, that is the case for sure. It performs differently though. So that's why I'm saying what I'm saying. I don't know the science behind artificial VST related compressors and how that relates to using them sparingly instead of using one compressor to take 6 to 9 dB away. I'm using 2 compressors right there a little bit differently. Just adds some more technical sides to it, but I also think it makes it a little bit more artistic. This limiter, I was trying to push pretty hard to be similar to the Our Last Night song, just to kind of copy that, steal from it, because if their song sounds good and I do what they do, mine's more likely to. And then that's it. That's exactly what I did right there. And it left it as a whole. If we take all that out, doesn't sound bad. But all together with it, with that limiter too, it didn't just make everything louder. I hear the vocal more. It's just more like, and that's what I like. I wanted that. So that is how I went ahead and mixed the song called Drag Me Down. I'm going to try and have Cambridge MT in the description for this. I'm going to try and link the artist himself who went ahead and put this up here. If you guys like this song, it is going to be on my website as an example. And then you can try and connect with him or listen to his music because he made a great song. I'm going to go ahead and play the last 20-30 seconds, kind of show you what it really sounded like completed. And yeah.
You're not gonna drag me down this time. You're not gonna drag me down this time. You're not gonna drag me down this time.
Here you hear that acoustic guitar. I'm going to be trying to upload some more videos with some consistency. I'm trying to get that worked out. I want to try and be uploading some like meme videos, so as well as music related technology or how I go about mixing and producing, how I have produced and mixed songs in the past, you know, those kinds of things. So if you guys have any things that you'd want me to cover, certain memes, certain questions you'd want answered, anything like that, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, hit the bell. You know, you got to get the notifications because I'm not humble. I need to bug you all the time. Please pay attention to me. Also, leave the comment down below. Tell me how I did. Tell me how I could improve. If you got any questions, I do try and answer. I'm just happy to be able to show you guys exactly how I would go about doing this. If you want to work with me, I'll have my link in the description below. lgmofficial.com is where you'll fill out something at the very bottom of the page. It's just called the contact. Let's work together. Let's make some good music. As always, thanks for your time, and toodaloo, my dudes.